many of us don't even want to think that maybe there's something wrong with me. We always think that it's the other person's fault.
Welcome to Creating Wellness Moments, the podcast where we dive into the depths of the human psyche, self-discovery, and personal growth. I'm Calvin Wong, your host and fellow explorer on this journey towards mental well-being. Join me as we uncover inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical tips to cultivate a healthier and happier life. Get ready to embark on a transformative experience, one episode at a time. Let's create wellness moments together. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Wellness Moments. Today we have Shevangi, the founder of Mentewise. She specializes in stress management and anxiety in order for people to reach their fullest potential. And she's also on track right now to become a trauma specialist. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity, Calvin. It's great to be.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Are you able to just share a little bit about your journey and why you decided to take this kind of path in your life?
Okay, so this idea actually came up to me sometime in 2020. I was still a student doing my master's. And around that time only, I just started my master's and COVID suddenly came up. Even around me, there were a lot of people who were struggling. Like some very close friends and relatives were actually battling depression. So, and they were all in India, like scattered all over. I was in Singapore, we couldn't travel. So I wanted to come up with something which could reach out to people. And beginning of COVID, it was not very common to like reach out to somebody through video calls and counsel them over a video call. The way to go about it was to have face-to-face sessions. Like now, obviously, it's very common to have video calls and all for such things, but that time it wasn't very common. So yes, I actually got that idea during that time, and I wasn't really in the most effective place to be able to do that because I was still a student. I didn't have the relevant what do you call it? I didn't have the speciality to be able to carry out these interventions or carry out a counseling session. So when I was done, I graduated with my master's early last year. So then sometime in October, I finally came up with Mentewise. And I would say I technically started properly this year because setting up took some time, and end of the year, usually there's a lot of travel. So like I travel back home. So because of that, I'd say I properly started this year, and it's been wonderful till now. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that you had a great forethought and just took the idea and pioneered it and didn't let the roadblocks of school or the traveling kind of set you
Yeah.
back from this vision that you have. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, so for those who maybe don't know what the term Mentewise means, it basically translates in English to mind-wise. So in my practice, I basically tend to take the individual as a whole, that, okay, this person is not, what we call under unconditional positive regard, in our practice. So I don't see the person or the client coming in as a problem. I just see that, okay, there's something which is not right in the environment, which is maybe causing them to have a faulty thinking, which is why I focus on correcting the way they think, which is why I say that I'm into thought management and helping them solve their anxiety, which is, like maybe a reason. It's because of something which is in the current environment, which maybe needs some changes. So
That's a really, I would say that's a really beautiful way to frame it because I would say a lot of people who might be seeking mental help may come from the frame that or the mindset that they have something wrong with them or they're broken. And for them, just to start off the initial conversation and setting this frame to allow them to think about their life in a different way. I think that's a great way to start off the beginning of their journey there.
yeah, actually, a lot of my clients have actually appreciated a thought which has been very different from what they initially came in with. So, getting that different insight, which is positive, also really motivates them as well. That, okay, it's not me; it's something in the environment, or maybe they have maybe some conflict with a friend or maybe some family member, and basically hearing out a viewpoint which is actually different, that okay, maybe it is not this, but it is this, like
Yeah,
it could be this. Have you given it a thought? So sometimes that really makes a big difference, and they're like, oh, actually I did not think of it this way, but yes, you're right, it could be this. So that's definitely there. And actually, you just mentioned that okay, people think that it's my fault and whatever. uh, I would also say that as humans, like, when we're functioning properly, right, when we're normal, healthy individuals, many of us don't even want to think that maybe there's something wrong with me. We always think that it's the other person's fault. We always think it's maybe the other person who's at fault, and we don't want to accept our mistake. I think it goes both ways like that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. So in terms of that, I would say that there's probably some common challenges and themes that you see a lot when you're
Yeah, yeah.
helping these people out. What would you say those are and how you address them?
Okay, so I think uh, whenever anyone comes to me in the sessions, I mean, they feel that it's something which is happening only with them because, they must be growing up in that environment, or they must be seeing it in them. Like, we don't really go out and discuss our personal matters, right, with our friends or uh, people we are really close to. We tend to keep it to ourselves. So initially, when they come in, they realize that, okay, this is something which is unique to us. And I guess that's why it's so important for them to actually solve it so that they can be normal like the rest of them. But then, like maybe self-disclosure sometimes helps them a lot to understand that okay, this is not so uncommon. Anxiety is very common, and family problems are very common, because at the end of the day, we're all humans. So we will go through the same kind of problems that anyone else goes through. So some tips like that with family members, some misinterpretations, maybe parents misguiding, or the children misunderstanding. So it goes both ways. So I would say yes, the problems I see, they're actually very common. In fact, not just that, I was during my graduation time, I was interning at a hospital in New Delhi, and the clients who, like, the patients who came in, to see the head of department over there, um, they all were, mostly OCD, depression, schizophrenia, all kinds of problems, depression. I mean, I think about it now that, when they go out, they must be thinking that, okay, this advice or these guidelines are specifically for me. But then being over there and working with a professional, I realized, okay, like these are some things which are going, which are basically being heard by every patient who's coming with that problem. And one common one was, like, to like take care of your diet, have fresh fruits and vegetables, colorful, like have colorful fruits in your diet, um, keep a healthy environment, have a healthy lifestyle. If possible, take a detox from your phone. That was something which was the most important. Take a detox from your phone every night. So now, if I think about it, yes, it is common, and I think just us as a professional, I think we are the only ones who actually realize that, because we are seeing so many people with such issues.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely that's true. That a lot of us, especially when we see only within our single individual frame, we think it's only us. But as people more open up, especially with the social media and people being more aware in terms of mental health and well-being, people are actually starting to share more in terms of publicly sharing their struggles versus before. And in this case, how would you say you would tackle these subjects? Because the just like losing weight, it's not really a secret. All the tips and tricks are all the same, but the way we approach it and the way we speak about and frame it to the individual to get the message across, I think is what sets us everyone apart. And how do you take that approach?
Okay, so I would actually say that I would go with, um, there's no one size that fits all. Like, you need to, like, as individuals, we have different experiences, we have different perceptions in the way we understand those situations happening to us. Like, for instance, you and I could have had the same experience, but the intensity would be different and the way we perceive it would be different. So, the guidance that we need to give somebody uh, needs to actually be based on the way they are perceiving it, and not on the experience that they are having. That's what I would say. So, like, for instance, if somebody is coming to me for in the anxiety, for instance, which is, maybe streaming up with uh, a low self-esteem because, they've had a lot of, failed experiences, failed relationships, maybe, or maybe like because of that, the exam hasn't gone well. So I would want to consider how they perceive it, what exactly about the situation is causing them to have that self-esteem issue, and the intensity. How much is it? So maybe I would maybe send them to somebody who could, maybe administer a test for them to understand the range, and I would want to see how deep they're into that anxiety. I would want to talk to them out of it, give them a different scenario, that okay, maybe it's this, and I would definitely want to give them hope. So I feel that if somebody's coming into counseling, they already have that ray of hope at the end of the tunnel, that yes, things can get better, and I think that's the most important thing for change, basically. So no matter who is coming to you for help, definitely they are coming with the confidence that yes, that things can change for the better. So I think that's a very big thing. So I mean, I don't really take one specific approach. I treat everyone differently. I just have the mindset that okay, this person is not a problematic person. It's the environment which is causing them to behave that way, or maybe what I learned from my certification just now. I would say that if somebody is feeling very stressful, it's maybe because their nervous system has been feeling very overwhelmed lately. So if it's like that, if they're very, very stressed, if they take stress about the smallest of things, then I would also incorporate some deep breathing exercises so that they can calm themselves down when they have to get into um, talking to somebody who caused them a problem earlier on, or uh, getting into a situation like, say, an interview, which could stress them out. So it's different with different people, but my approach is more or less the same. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah, actually, that was a really enlightening answer because what what you kind of explained to me is, this is where the importance of your specialization and getting your master's is understanding the nuances between each individual. You talked about the intensity, how they perceive it, and I think that's really where that training comes into play versus not so much what exercises to do, but to see how this specific individual and how I should tackle this approach. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But also, like, if I ever tell somebody that okay, deep breathing exercises are actually helpful, um, many of them think it's supposed to work like magic, that you do it once and it solves the situation. But what they don't understand is that it's actually a process. It takes time. Like, our body also, our mind, our brain, it needs some time to understand that okay, these exercises, deep breathing, it's becoming a part of our routine and we need to get used to it. Like, we also need, our body needs time to understand. Like, for instance, you give an example about losing weight, right? Like, there are these tips. The body also would need some time to understand that okay, there's something different in our diet or in our lifestyle, and it would maybe take about a month, like 2 to 4 weeks, for the body to realize okay, there is some difference. Otherwise they would think that okay, this is not happening right now, I'm not getting any junk food, and it's going to come back to me very soon. So the body also needs some time to understand that there is a change which is happening. The body needs time to process. So same way with these deep breathing exercises, or any other relaxation techniques. um, our body and our mind, it needs time to understand that there is this change that we are consciously making in our routine to help us feel better. It might not happen immediately, it's going to happen over a period of time, but consciously we need to take out those 5 to 7 minutes and make sure that, okay, yes, we're getting into a routine of making ourselves better to like deal with any kind of stressful situation.
Absolutely. Actually, I was speaking to a few neuroscientists a few weeks ago on the podcast. They're not out yet, but in any case, they view it really more as the brain to be multiple pieces. Like there's not just a whole thing is like a brain. There's many different parts, and each part is kind of like a muscle where you have to train. And this is
Oh,
where the
definitely.
yeah.
I had a module on biopsychology during my graduation, and I think it was the toughest module I ever did. So, I mean, it was the toughest module, but yeah, like I got a good grade. That's all done. But yeah, I do remember a lot of the things I studied. In fact, I still have the book. I still keep going through it, whenever I feel like, because now it's leisure, right? I don't have to give any exam. But but yes, definitely there are a lot of useful things written even in that book about how each part of the brain is so very well specialized. Yeah, that's definitely a fact.
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of the hardest part for people to see their change because the change is very in in terms of comparing to like losing weight. It's not so much physical. It's all mental, and it is very gradual, right? So even in terms of my own personal health journey, I would say the last past year is the biggest kind of change I've seen in my own personal life, and even then it was quite nuanced. But if I didn't do any of this previous work with other counselors and therapists and whatnot, I wouldn't have had that year, my last year, be such an improvement in terms of my mental health.
Yeah, that's definitely, every new thing that we learn tends to impact our brain. Like our brain, it grows in size whenever we learn anything new. That I think that's the reason we are told to solve puzzles also and crosswords when we're kids, so that our brain development can be better. Which I understand now, because as a kid, I think I never liked puzzles at all. Now I understand the reason behind it.
Hey there, amazing listeners. Before we dive deeper in today's insightful conversation, I want to take a quick moment to give a shout out to the driving force behind this podcast, my very own mental health focused creative production agency, Calvin Wong Media. As you know, creating wellness moments is all about exploring the depths of the human psyche and fostering personal growth. And guess what? It would not be possible if it were not for Calvin Wong Media. We conceptualize, humanize, and bring your story to life using unique storytelling techniques that engages the audience. So, the next time you're inspired by an episode or find yourself engaged in a thought-provoking conversation here, remember, that's the result of the support of Calvin Wong Media and its lovely kinds. If you're looking to amplify your message, tell your story with authenticity, and connect with your audience on a deeper level, reach out to us at calvinwongmedia.com. Now back to the conversation on creating wellness moments. But I just wanted to kind of pivot the conversation a little bit. Earlier we talked a little bit about the awareness and how mental health is. People think that their problems are quite individualized and they're usually behind closed doors. Even with the culture kind of shifting a little bit now, why do you think there's still this stigma around mental health and well-being and not being able to share your problems to your friends or family or coworkers?
Okay, so I think there are a few reasons to why this might be there. One of the reasons I stated earlier, I feel that, as people who are, when we are fully functional, right? We feel that, okay, we are not at fault. We are completely perfect. We want to believe that, we have attained perfection. Like maybe we have one or two things which are like mildly wrong with us, but mostly it is the other person who is at fault. Um, Other than that, I would think it is the unawareness. I think a lot of us are actually unaware. We know that psychology is there. We know about psychology, Like how I know that okay, engineering is a field, but I don't know what it is all about. I'm not aware about psychology. I'm not aware about engineering. I know that engineering is a field. So same way, people know that psychology is a very interesting field which is coming up, and at the same time, that awareness is not there. So, for instance, like my grandparents tell me that these things were not there during our time. Like psychology is a very new science, definitely, but I always hear from my grandparents that okay, these problems were not there during our time, but if the way I see it, maybe they were unaware. Like it was definitely there, because the way of treating disorders during that time was very different. It was not about giving medications or um, informed consent, for instance, wasn't there during those times. That came about very late. So it was definitely there, but I would say that awareness wasn't there. And even now, I feel awareness is not there, and we are hesitant because of that, because we feel that our brain is a different part of our body altogether. We don't treat it like a part of our body. It's we're hesitant to go to any doctor, and like how we have a stomach problem, we go to a gastro. We have a throat problem, we go to an ENT. The same way, it is important that if you feel that you have a problem which has been persisting for a while, you should definitely go to a mental health professional, because our brain is not a different part of our body. It's very much a part of us. And then from there on, I think it's also the fact that as humans, we are very skeptic. We don't want to accept anything new which comes to us. Our very first response to anything new is no, I reject. Like we don't want to accept anything. And the most recent example I could think of is the COVID vaccine. Like it was made under a year, since it was a need of the hour, and people were coming up with with all sorts of rumors, even going to the extent that okay, it can turn you into a zombie. Now we don't know how much of it was right. We were skeptic about the effects of the vaccine and what it could do to us, but we didn't think that okay, it was so important that okay, we need to take it, right? I mean, we've taken other vaccines as well, and they were fine because it's been there ever since we've existed. But this one was new, so we were very hesitant. But now everyone is okay with it. I think mostly all of us are fine with it. So yeah, I mean, I would say stigma maybe, according to me, arises because of the unawareness and the hesitancy which we tend to have within ourselves. And that's why we don't want to really talk about it, because it's not common to talk about it. It's not been normalized yet to discuss your mental health the way we discuss our physical health.
Yeah,
So
you talked a little bit about this awareness, and I would say right now, this like the word mindfulness is a bit of a buzzword now these
yeah,
days,
it's coming up. Yes.
and that it's slightly related to this awareness. And how would you say someone becomes more self-aware, or not so much mindful, but even just be more aware of themselves, and how what they might feeling, or is kind of like a projection or their perception versus what the objective reality is?
Okay, I think for us, usually the reality is that everyone else is wrong and I'm right. Unfortunately, that's what the reality is to most of us. But I think deep breathing exercises really help. Like when you do it over a period of time, deep breathing or light meditation, these things help a lot. When you talk to more people and you want to get some good critiquing from the other person about your behavior and how you are like, and you offer the same to the other person in front of you. So like many times when we need to see ourselves, like how we are looking, we need a mirror, right? Sometimes we need a mirror to see how we are looking. The same way, I think a person who would critique us, someone who really knows us, I mean, not very well, I would say, because that non-bias, that should be there, so that you can get the full clarity. They don't hide anything from you because they're scared of you. That shouldn't be the case. Somebody should be upfront. So I would say same way, you need a person sometimes to really tell you that okay, you are at fault. And yes, as humans, we would definitely reject what the person is saying, that no, I wasn't wrong. Maybe we're also angry at that moment, which is why we would say that, okay, I'm not at fault, it's the other person's fault. So I would say it's always good to have a moment of self-reflection once your anger subsides or once you're in a more calmer state of mind, and literally actually go through whatever has happened throughout the day, go through the incident, replay it in your mind, think about how you could do it differently and solve the situation instead of aggravating it. I think that really makes a big difference. Um, like a shift in perception, right? Instead of thinking how you could retaliate and make it worse, you are thinking of how you could solve it at that moment. So I
Yeah.
think this would also maybe calm down the person a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. Actually, the breathing exercises and the meditation actually is, people keep harping on this, and I would say there's a very good reason for it. I've been on my personal meditation journey more or less every day for about a year now, and only now I'm beginning to see the changes that from meditation and taking the breathing exercises when I'm feeling the anxiety. And it really just takes that much time. I mean, I can't say it's different for everyone, I'm sure, but on my personal journey, this is how long it took for me to actually realize these are the changes that are actually helping me make better decisions, stay more calm, better executive function. But the key thing that you really spoke to me is using that analogy of the mirror. I've never heard anyone say that before. Having a mirror for your brain and being able to see it, properly. So it's kind of like, oh, is there something in my teeth? It's like, is there something in my mind that's giving me the wrong perception? And I really love how you compared it as using a mirror. That's a really great analogy.
Yeah, yeah. So, I would say that, anything or any moment could be a starting point for us. It's never too late to start anything new. Like people think that, okay, if we start something now, people might judge us, and it's really not that, like people mostly don't remember what we do. We are all so engrossed and busy with our fast-paced life, especially in Singapore. Singapore is very fast-paced. So I think given that we really, I don't think we would have that much time to keep track of everything that the other person has done. So I would say it's really never late to start anything new. And by chance, in between, if you feel that you're not ready for it, you want to give up, start another time, that is also okay. What is important is that whenever you do it, you are ready. That's what matters.
Yeah. So just touching on that, I think it's quite important to find that balance and being kind to yourself and allowing yourself to be in that place where you're able to take it on. At the same time, we also, I think, might have to be a little bit more aware of, are we making the excuse that it's not the right time now because we're afraid? And you kind of really have to balance that, being kind to yourself, and also, is this coming from a place of fear, right? And also, you spoke a little bit about how we're so on the go, especially in Singapore.
Yeah.
And personally, for me, I also struggle with how it always feels like you never have enough time to do anything, especially when it comes to work. And then I personally, myself, will find a little guilty when I actually have some time off. If I find it hard to enjoy myself because there's always so much to do and it's never going to end, right? How do
Yeah.
you set that time apart and allow yourself to take that break so you could recharge and not feel guilty about it?
Okay, well, I would say you should never feel guilty about what you're doing because it's what you want, right? And you're doing it for yourself ultimately. Even if it's giving yourself a break over the weekend, you're working 5 days a week. Maybe for some people it is 6 days a week. So definitely you really totally deserve that break. So there's no need to feel guilty at all. It's your rest day and you can spend it the way you want. Definitely, it's definitely a treat to your mind and body. But if we say about how you want to maybe better manage your time, I think some people don't want to do it, don't want to take that extra step because I think they're just natural procrastinators, and that's also okay. Like it happens. Some of my friends are also procrastinators, and that's completely fine. For procrastinators, I would say the most difficult thing is starting it. And once you start, then it starts getting easy from there. That's what I've seen for most of them. I've spoken to a few friends of mine as well, that you just need to push yourself. And if you feel difficult, you could ask a friend of yours or somebody close to you who you feel wouldn't judge you for being a procrastinator to uh, be after you to start something. You might get a little irritated with them for being after you, that you keep telling me this, you keep telling me that. But honestly, it goes a long way, because at least you finally start that task you want to do. It could be anything, and anything big or anything small, something you've been wanting to do. But once you start and you're in the flow, it really becomes simple. So starting point is the most important. um, I would say start with something small. Like if you're not able to exercise every day, then okay, there's something that I studied about in my biopsychology book years ago, which has not left me till now, because I also practice it. If I ever feel I don't want to actually exercise, there is something called NEAT, NEAT, and it is an abbreviation for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This basically means that if you are unable to exercise because of a busy routine, or you just don't feel motivated enough, or there's any other issue, then small things that you do during the day, which people would otherwise feel are negligible, they also go a long way. It's just that your body needs to be in motion. So say if you're at home, and you have a full-time help, you want a cup of coffee or a glass of water. Instead of telling the helper to get it to you, you get up and you get your glass of water, you get a coffee cup, and then you go and keep it back. So I think this way you would have at least maybe, so we all have at least 5 glasses of water in the whole day. So imagine going back and forth, 5 rounds of going back and forth. So every time you want something, you get up and go, you get it back, right? So that's one way. Then you have somebody at the door, somebody you're expecting. Instead of telling your family member, you get up and open the door, right? And you go and you personally leave them downstairs. You say bye to them. This is something you could do at home. And then say you're at work, you have a busy schedule, you're going to work, you don't have time to walk. So this is something my dad does. If you're on a call, you have a meeting, if you're allowed to switch off the meeting, like switch off your video, you switch off the video and you keep walking up and down. So like he also used to, like, my dad is really fond of reading. So he also used to read the biopsychology textbook with me for information. So he really caught he really caught that. So even now, he keeps walking up and down. Whenever he's on any video call, he switches off the video, and everyone in his office knows that he will be walking. So that's one way. If you have a lot of meetings, you can just do that while you're on a call. You keep walking. As soon as you get a call, you start walking. That's one way. And if there's something, you need to, you have some work with the person in your office, you need them to come over to your desk or your cabin, walk over to them, get it done. You go to your work, you have to use the elevator, don't use it, use the escalator. You want to be productive, you could maybe walk up the escalator. So like these are some ways to actually, make sure that your body is in motion throughout, even if you're not actively exercising. If somebody is very conscious about dancing, if you just groove to music, just sitting down, there's movement in your body, even that would count. You don't actually have to get up and dance. If you feel you're not good at it, or you're stiff, groove to music while you're sitting down.
Yeah, it just sounds like instead of just trying to make time for the, in this context, the workout plan, but you're just trying to integrate it more into your life, more so than trying to force something into your life. And you spoke a little bit about getting started, and I'm sure it wasn't easy to start Mentewise while you're at school, and then also trying to build this company on the side. What would you say some of the challenges that you had in terms of getting started and along the journey you have so far?
I think the most difficult part, again, I would say was starting. Like coming up with the name was difficult, and I think I really learned a few important things. Like I never really worked on creating a website. I think that was definitely something I really learned. I was working with somebody to create the website. So that was something new that I picked up. And I mean, even now, I think every time you're a founder for something, right? It definitely comes up as a challenge. But as a mental health counselor and a founder, I realized it's very important to be passionate and really love what you do, because so in the mental health industry, right, we're all expected to be uh, in control of our emotions. Like during college, like when I was doing my graduation, I was pursuing psychology even that time, and my non-psychology friends, I mean, I was told, I've really got this a lot, that, oh, you're a counselor. How can you get stressed about these things? But honestly, we're humans first, right? We feel stressed about the normal things a person our age would also feel. So many times when my friends come to me for help, for advice, I let them know that, okay, it's very normal to feel this way, and I also feel this way. And many times they actually feel relieved that, okay, it's not something which I'm going through alone, that you are also feeling nervous or anxious about attending an interview or doing, or the result for this exam. So I think that's one thing, that we are expected to be in control of our emotions, because otherwise, how are we going to be professional with our clients, right? So I mean, that professional bit is definitely one aspect. You're supposed to give your full attention to your client and keep your personal issues aside, which we are definitely trained well to do during our masters. But then our personal identity is definitely separate. So over there, we are allowed to feel a little anxious and let out if there's anything. Uh, uh, Maybe making us stressed or something. So there are ways that we can do that. But the important thing is to really love what you do and be passionate, because when you start something on your own, it's not like you're working for somebody, right? You're working for yourself. And during the initial days, sorry, during the initial days, it's like you have a mix of all the good days and bad days, right? You could have some days where you're super productive, you really get things done. And then there are some days where, as much things don't happen. So it's a mix. So during those days where you feel like, it's not productive enough, it's the reason you initially started your practice, which is going to keep you going. So it's really important to really love what you do, and psychology has really been that for me. I really love psychology. I'm really in love with my subject. So yes, even though the challenges have been there, but when you do something you love, it does tend to make it a little easy to face the hard days.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. I think that really applies to everyone, not only entrepreneurs and
Yeah.
founders of companies. Finding that thing that you really love to do and passionate about, as you know, it's probably going to be what 60 to 80% of your life here.
Yeah.
You might as well do something that you have some passion and enjoyment in, and not just try to receive a paycheck to live. Just getting that work-life integration, I think, is quite important.
Yeah. It's just that, how people say work is play, right? Like, I'm not sure how much I agree with that, because when you're playing, it's not a task for you. But if you change the play to work, if playing was a task for you, then yes, it would be a completely different story. So I don't know how much I agree with that, but definitely uh, it really makes it a lot easier to uh, go ahead and want to go to work when it's something that you really want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And just one last question now. What would you say is next for you, at Mentewise, and personally for you, Shevangi?
Um. So I think I've always wanted to do psychology. I've wanted to help people as much as I can. Like counseling. It's called the helping profession. So definitely that's something I've been wanting to do since 2020, since the pandemic had just started. And working for myself, like I have my own schedule. I'm not working for anyone. I'm not dependent on anyone. I can spend time like doing things I love for myself, and meeting friends. I schedule my own appointments. I think that way, like I'm a master of my own schedule. Like, I don't have to depend on anyone. Otherwise, I think this field can get very stressful. Like you may have a lot of overwhelming amount of cases. So I would say that I'm definitely at that point, and I guess I would want to take this further. This is what I would want to do. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience, insights, and knowledge with everyone. I've personally
Thank you.
learned a lot for sure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So that's it. And let's create more wellness moments together. Thank
Cheers.
you.